And hello. So welcome to Cinephiles episode 2. You've heard a little of the outro by accident because it cut between the two of them because I didn't realize this player would loop the two files. Gonna make it
We
so
are
y'all.
we are adapting, we are improvising, we are overcoming. This is Cinephiles, just like John Cena would while his girlfriend is kidnapped or his wife is being abducted. We're figuring it out. We're improvising.
We're not gonna fix the bathroom sink properly when we should have, but we're at least
Yeah.
gonna make things work when they should have. I'm Henry T. Casey. He's Mike Andronico. I almost called you Mike Strikes Back because I've heard you refer to the stream and everything. Hi, Marie. That's Marie in the background. The third the third part of our 3-man band.
Yes.
Um, the the Slater to our Ginger and Drew.
Exactly.
But I should go through the normal introduction here. Welcome to Cinephiles, the world's greatest John Cena film review program. We are here to discuss the cinematic career of the Doctor of Thugonomics, the 16-time world champion, the best-selling author, the TV show host, and overall sentient meme machine himself, John Cena. And John, if you're watching, and I hope you are,
He is.
we can't see you right now, but you can see us, and I bet you like that. I bet it's a good change of pace for you. But we're going to talk about a little movie called 12 Rounds. And Magan in the chat, what's up? We're doing well. Good to see you in there, dude. How are you doing today, Mike?
Doing great. Well, great. Maybe it's being a bit.
Are you gonna lie to our audience?
Too
We're only in the
yeah,
third episode. We're only in the second episode of the second season. You're not gonna lie.
I need to be honest with everyone. I'm doing okay. I'm starting to. My energy was a little low before the episode started, but as soon as I got on Discord with Henry, starting to amp myself back up. Had a bit of a late night last night on several levels. It happens. It'll actually come into play in this podcast because there's a moment in this film that was very similar to something I experienced last night. But we'll get to that. But I started today at probably like 40%. But as soon as we hit that big old Cinephiles button, I am ready to give it 100 because that's what I do for Big John.
Oh, Mike, they say it's kind of hard to hear you, so I'm going to turn up your audio.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
is that better, Jolene? I raised his audio. This is the first time I am hosting a second person on a stream. So, Mike, can you talk a little more?
Yeah, I could talk all day. Yeah, and this is the joy of doing it live. We're just figuring things out as we go. Y'all can chime in at any time. If any of y'all have seen the movie, feel free to give your thoughts, and we'll weave it in. But
Yeah, thinking
yeah,
about this, I lowered
this
ourselves
is
to the same level in the
yeah.
mixer, so hopefully I'm not sounding overpoweringly loud. And good to know that we're. Thank you, Jolene, for being our. Because we did a video check earlier to test everything out. I was like, oh, it might just be my system that because like we both sounded a little soft, but and just so you know, just so y'all know, we've had a little fun preparing for this. I want to show you something here. That so we've got. I finally actually have videos that play little gifs that play when stuff happens. A little preview. I know I've been slacking on my streaming, but I'm glad to finally get that together. But Mike, we're gonna go back to you for a second here. You were
Yes.
talking about your last night. What were you up to?
Oh yeah, we just out and about in Brooklyn, seeing some friends, and I actually got to see you at the end of the night, which was great. Slowly starting to get back to normal in the world, um, and everything was going great. It was a great old night, and until I got home and got stuck in my elevator, which was kind of whatever. Like I wasn't freaking out. As you know, Henry, I have a historically bad elevator that stops working at random times. This was the first time I actually got stuck in it. So it was just a little, it had been a long night. So it was a little frustrating, but I was just kind of chilling. I was vibing. I was like, worst case, hey, if I have to sleep here tonight, they have a little rug. I'll be okay.
I didn't know
But
it was
eventually,
historically bad. I just knew it looked like it had been there historically for a very long time.
it's probably older than the actual building somehow. But eventually, the folks at the fire department came, got the door open for me. John Cena was not one of the firefighters, which is disappointing. But But I was okay. How was your night, Henry?
My night was good as well. I was supposed to see Army of the Dead, and plans change, and now I have credit for a movie theater that's nowhere near my apartment, so that's fun. And then I wound up going out for drinks and then pizzas, slices with a couple of our former coworkers. Well, one's a current coworker, kinda. Like, do you call somebody a coworker if they work for the same company but not on the same team?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
so
Or you could say colleague.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was out with a colleague and a former colleague, and it was just great to actually be out and about. And honestly, that avenue in Brooklyn, it was a really wide open street with like a bunch of people. And it was like on our way on the way when we left, it was a huge like DJ and a bunch of people. I was like, this feels like
New York.
college. This feels
Yeah.
weird.
New York is back, baby. And but we're not talking about New York today.
No,
We're
no.
talking about New Orleans, Louisiana, which is the setting of 12 Rounds, the 2009 film starring John Cena. So this is kind of his second major leading role. Another WWE Films production, directed by Rennie Harlan. Obviously starring John Cena. We have Aidan Gillen as the lead villain. You all probably know him as Littlefinger.
Or Tommy Carcetti from The Wire for the Wire heads out there. But a couple of things up front before we get past the credits too soon. First of all, the first thing I realized when I realized where it was, I'm like, this is going to make me just miss New Orleans so much. I'm just going to be upset the entire time. That didn't happen. But the WWE Studios has another pretentious, like, they changed their logo animation since the Marine. But now it's not 20th Century Fox that they're working with. Now it's Fox Atomic. And I looked it up. Fox Atomic lasted only 3 years. It was a studio subsidiary started for comedy and genre films, is what Wikipedia tells me. Because genre films, I believe, is what they call movies that aren't prestigious. I'm not sure if that's the technical term for it, but
also just to get some other quick trivia out there before we jump in. So this opened at number 7 in the box office, made about 1.75 million. That was opening day, 5.3 million opening weekend. Didn't get the best critical response. This I actually wish I wish I knew this before. Apparently there's an extreme cut of this film, an unrated extreme cut. So we might have to revisit this down the line. Maybe that'll be a bonus episode we do once we get through the whole thing. But there is an unrated cut of 12 Rounds, and of course, like the Marine, 12 Rounds is a franchise. There's a standalone sequel, 12 Rounds 2 Reloaded, starring Randy Orton. 12 Rounds 3 Lockdown, starring Dean Ambrose.
Yep.
A.K.A. Jonathan Good, A.K.A. John Moxley. So another one of those, anthology series where they just did the same formula with different dudes. So there you go. That's some tidbits about 12 Rounds.
I gotta say, it makes more sense for them to do it with this sort of structure because when you make a series of movies called The Marine, but each one of them, for the first few of them, has a different person in that role and they're playing different Marines, how could they all have the definite article as the Marine? That doesn't make sense.
Nope.
But I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. Our trailer is not, for some reason, the YouTube isn't showing up the embed I have of the. I'm not sure what's going on with that. It's playing though, so.
Yeah,
okay,
I see it. Yeah,
there it is. It worked out.
Perfect. Now y'all have the visual of what we'll be talking about.
So New Orleans is a great city. I hope to go there with Mike and some of y'all someday soon. And the movie starts out with, well, as we learned in The Marine, things go really bad when cops show up. This time, John's one of the cops. He's Officer Danny Fisher.
Yes. Yeah, there's very Tom Clancy-esque intro. You're seeing these profiles of different people. The FBI is looking for this dude Miles Jackson, who is our main villain, played by Aidan Gillen. So there's a lot of just espionage-y looking FBI shots. They're trying to find this dude, and I think before things really heat up, we very quickly meet Danny Fisher at home. He's with his wife, or I think no, it's not his wife. I think it's just his girlfriend. That'll come to play later. He's with his partner. He's just your everyday cop. He's looking for his badge.
Everyday cop who is a muscly machine of a human being.
Yes, he's your everyday 2009 American man. He's got a really cute pug named Phil.
But
And
he's
then
not supposed to be
there's
feeding Phil.
yeah.
Molly specifically tells him, "You're not feeding the dog, are you?" Danny bends down and feeds Phil noodles, just
Hmm.
like it looks like ramen or something, like just but cooked.
Yeah. And he specifically says he's going through a bulking phase, so it's okay.
Because Danny's trying to
Another,
build the world's most dominant dog. Is I wrote those words down in particular because
it's true, and Phil, and that'll come in handy later. Phil does some amazing things, but there's also a great one-liner I didn't catch the first time I watched this, where he's finally ready for work, and he kind of slyly says to his partner, "Oh, I have about 10 minutes till I have to leave," and she's like, "It only takes you two, honey," and she just walks him out the door, and that's that.
but we have to give John his credit here, or Danny his credit. It's a strong two, is how he replies to that. So he's sticking up for himself.
And I
He's
and I believe him.
and we pan out to the cop car, or no, we cut to the cop car outside where Hank, his partner, is waiting for him. I believe his partner's name
Hmm.
is. And Hank says, "Ah, shit, I am definitely not smarter than a fifth grader," because he's trying to solve a Rubik's cube and he's having a really hard
Hmm.
time with it. I only bring this up. I wouldn't probably have brought this up before, but it reminded me. Wait, didn't John? Yes, 10 years after this movie came out, in 2019, John Cena hosted the 2019 TV series Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader? So he had the seeds planted to be in that TV show 10 years prior. So it's all
There's
a
a
part of the plan.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in that film that ended up being accidental foreshadowing. But yeah, we kind of get back to the main scene. There's a pretty elaborate double crossing setup weapons deal going on with Miles Jackson, some other players. The guy that he's dealing with, I think his name is Robert, or something like that, and he's wired by the FBI. So it looks like it's a sting operation,
Yeah,
but
Joshua is the guy who
Joshua,
Joshua's the guy working with the feds.
yes.
We meet these two sort of we mostly meet one Fed who they're not named yet, but they're these angry Feds, and it's very what was that Will Smith movie? And it was very Enemy of the State. The opening credits, it
Hmm.
felt very inspired by that. But Hank Miles's Danny's partner Hank asks him when is he getting married. Danny's like we just moved in together, like
Yeah, he's putting a lot of pressure on him to pop the question. But yeah, so they're kind of on their regular patrol. They're just your kind of standard cops, while the FBI is watching what's happening with this deal. And basically, we see the first part of what looks like a setup. So Joshua shoots Miles. It makes it look like he betrayed him and he's about to run away and takes the briefcase. Then they get in the van. You realize Miles was wearing a bulletproof vest. It was all kind of a setup to throw the FBI off. And but then there's like a double cross because in the van, as Miles and Joshua are talking, I forget the exact lines of dialogue, but Miles turns on Joshua, stabs him, kills him, grabs the money, and then we're kind of off. He goes to meet up with his girlfriend, whose name is Erica, I believe. Uh, and they just your typical villain stuff. He gets out of the car, finds his woman. They start super intensely making out, um, and then they eventually cross paths with Daniel and Hank, who don't realize what's going on at first. But
nope.
yeah,
Danny's playing it by the book, and Hank is just trying to get laid. Earlier in the movie, Danny sort of says something to Hank about how Hank has had a lot of girlfriends or partners, while Danny's only had his one girlfriend. And when they pull Erica over, Hank just sort of stops trying to actually do his job and gives Erica his card with his number on it if she ever doesn't want to be driving around solo, because it wasn't the nicest part of town. I'm not sure if it
no,
was the Treme, but it was because I've stayed in the Treme once on my first trip to New Orleans. It just didn't look like a good, well-to-do part. And throughout the movie, they make references to Katrina and how like run down the city's been.
yeah, this is very much multiple post references to this being post Katrina
But
New Orleans.
Cena needs her. Sorry, Danny. My notes say Cena. Danny needs Erica to pop the trunk, and Hank gets her to do so. But oh my God, Miles is in the trunk, and he's got a
Surprise!
gun.
Yeah, so then we're off. Then this sets up a big chase shootout scene.
We can't go past the recurring bit of the movie. Hank gets
What's
shot.
that?
And Hank
Yes.
says, he shot me in my ass. And
He does get shot in the ass.
Danny says, in your ass? It's like
Incredible.
good old John Cena, man. He knows
Yeah,
how to really emphasize the right word.
yeah. This movie doesn't have as many great one-liners as the Marine, but it doles out a few. But yeah, this kind of sets up a pretty solid chase scene. This is where you really can see the step up in cinematography from the Marine. Like, it's a pretty slickly shot action scene of, two cars doing all this crazy stuff. Definitely foreshadowing that John Cena would one day be in Fast 9. This is where he developed a love for being in movies with cars. Um, but eventually, when they finally kind of corner Miles and Erica, while Erica's kind of trying to escape, she gets hit by a car, dies.
But in the process, we learn that Danny's really familiar with New Orleans. He jumps through he's like running through all the neighborhoods' houses, and he can track them down. And he jumps through a glass door or a glass window. I'm like, in that moment, I'm like, I need John Cena versus Nick Cage. I need it badly.
Oh yeah, we'll get that.
Hopefully, but yeah, no. Erica gets hit by a car after she gets out of the car, and Miles is very angry, and he goes, what is your name? What is your name? And then Danny doesn't say because he knows better. But unfortunately, Danny's badge is showing, and Miles goes, Officer Fisher, I'll remember you. And he's really, really emphasizing how much Erica's loss means to him. And this makes me think, did he really show that much? Like, it just sort of seemed like the cliche bad guy and gal couple sort of lustfully on the road or whatever. It didn't seem like he had lost the Juliet to his Romeo.
We didn't get time to establish their relationship. It did not seem very, it very much seemed like the bad guy with his attractive partner, and they're gonna get away and be badasses. But obviously, so he's upset about losing his girlfriend, and he does the typical villain thing where you'll pay for this, I'll find you. And then we cut to 1 year later. On the cue ball.
Literally, the words are written. I wish we had a screen to show you, but like literally, the words 1 year later are title cards placed on a cue ball that Hank or Danny shoots, and life's pretty good for them, isn't it, Mike?
Pretty good, yeah. So we found out that in the past year, Danny has been promoted to detective, so he's now Detective Fisher. Him and Hank are just talking things over, and it's clear that he still feels really bad about what happened. He was like, he's like, this is wrong. Like, a girl died that night, and we got promoted. Yeah, we got promoted. Yeah. So it's still weighing on him. The death of Erica is still weighing on him. Meanwhile, Hank's a little more loose. He's just having a good time.
He still remembers there's a bullet hole in his ass cheek. Those are the exact words that he uses. Because Danny is like, don't you think about what would have happened if we hadn't gone after them that night? And Hank says, aside from the fact that I wouldn't have a bullet hole in my ass cheek, and what else is Hank up to? He's flirting with a lady that he's trying to bring home, but Danny needs to go home.
Yeah, that's because he's got Molly, he's got his girlfriend, he's got Phil to take care of, and then we cut back to the house. They're dealing with typical house problems. There's a flood. They're having some kind of issues in their bathroom and pipes.
Flooding. And, it's like an inch of water on the ground. It's not a.
Yeah.
You can't use the words flood in a movie about New Orleans that literally.
And I believe, so there's a leak. I believe that Molly heads off to work, and she does the typical, like, she says something along the lines of, like, I love you, I just want to trust you, and that's going to be important later, which we'll get to. But
symmetrical storytelling, it's good.
Yes.
But we find out that Hank is sort of like a sort of thrifty, because the plumber shows up and he goes, I told you about the stop valve, but you wanted to do it on your own, and you didn't want me to fix it. And so Molly and Danny have their little
Daniel, yeah.
Oh, why don't we get along? But
right.
He tries to stop her at the door, and he says, Molly, wait. And she says, I'll see you in the morning. And then the plumber gets all judgmental about him, and like,
yeah, you
gotta, the ones that go underneath the sink, because Molly was actually trying to fix the plumbing issue.
Yeah,
you gotta keep them.
Yeah, so there's a bit of household tension between Danny and Molly. Also Danny and Miles, because Miles. So about a minute later, Danny gets a phone call on this flip phone, because we're still using flip phones at this point. And guess who Danny picks up his phone. Guess who it is? Miles Jackson. He's like, he's saying something like, "Oh, how's the prison food?" He's like, "Well, it was terrible, but fortunately, I got out." And he's calling Danny to let him know that he's gonna get his revenge for what happened to Erica starting now, and they're gonna play a little game to invoke Saw a little bit.
Yeah, and but Danny, the minute he says the minute Miles says Miles says prison food bites, one of the reasons that I left, and then Danny sort of sees triple. It's this sort of recurring like visual motif in the movie where like when Danny's emotional, he has a hard time seeing straight, and it's sort of like it's very. And Miles has cameras in their house. It sounds like he says he was
Yeah.
enjoying the show.
Yes, he reveals that he's been stalking them. He's had cameras installed. Oh, and it turns out that there's a bomb planted in their car. Because as eventually Danny runs out of the house, uh, we realize something is up. There's a massive explosion. I think he even took the house out. It was just a lot of things blowing up. One of many times we see that kind of thing happening. And I was so concerned because at this point we think that maybe Phil died in the explosion. And in my notes I have all caps like if he effing killed the dog, I swear. But no, it turns out Phil made it out somehow. Right before Danny kind of goes on the run to figure out what's up, he hands Phil over to a neighbor. But yeah, like the Marine, we get a shot of John Cena getting knocked back by an explosion. And yeah, Miles basically says it's our anniversary. We're gonna have our rematch. I just took round one. It's very again. I kept thinking of Saw throughout this film, but he's trying to enact his revenge.
Why 12? This is my thing. It's like, is there a boxing reference for 12 rounds? Like, why is it just a number that he picked at random? Like, do we have any idea what's going on here?
No, no, I don't know if 12 rounds was a thing before this film, but
yeah.
So now Danny really he knows that Miles is after Molly. He knows that Molly's on the ferry. He's trying to get to her, but he can't call her because what happens, Henry?
There's this weirdo who he needs to call his daughter, and he doesn't have his own phone because people lie. And he asks Molly if he can use her phone, and he immediately turns it off so Molly won't get a call from Danny. Molly and Danny both having names that have double letters and then a Y at the end is really screwing with my head. I'm just going to say that out loud. But we can clearly tell that it's all a trap, and it seems like Miles has pretty much planned all of this out very. If he's already got we got a hunter in the chat. We got a hunter in the chat. Yes, your favorite kind of files, not audio files. We are the cinephiles. Good to see you, Hunter. So Miles has clearly planned this all out, and he takes a car. Well, he first identifies the ferry. It's the Thomas Jefferson. He's yelling. Danny's yelling for Molly. Molly doesn't hear him. She's far away. Danny looks at the ferry. He sees Thomas Jackson, and he immediately goes quasi GTA by demanding a stranger give him their car. And he drives after the Thomas Jefferson, but he doesn't flash his bag. And I'm wondering, is he gonna try to Dukes of Hazzard himself onto the ferry? Like, what's gonna happen here? But he calls Hank because you call for help.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, he calls Hank for help. They're driving around. Eventually we realize that Miles has Molly. The next time they end up on the phone, we get a really great exchange between Danny and Miles. And Danny's trying to be threatening. He's like, "I'm going to find you. I'm going to hunt you down and kill you." Miles has the best line of the film. He's like, "Oh, you like games? Mousetrap, Monopoly, Naked Twister. This one's called 12 Rounds." And he was like, first round I took your house, second round I took your wife, and he's explaining the game. And then we cut to Danny and Hank end up in a not so great neighborhood, kind of a weird scene. But they find some coordinates painted on.
It's the same area because Miles said, "Find me where we met." Because it's the location where Erica got hit by the car. And Danny and Hank are arguing at this point.
Yeah.
Hank doesn't think maybe we're at the wrong place. But Hank says, and this is where he shot me in the ass, because Hank has not forgotten about that, clearly.
I wouldn't either, to be honest.
No, I think, as Hunter knows, that would become a bit. You would always be bringing that up.
Yeah.
But Danny identifies coordinates, because there are a lot of post Katrina numbers and words spray painted on the houses.
Mm-hmm.
And Danny identifies coordinates. And Hank is like, "How did you figure that out?" And Danny says, "8th grade."
Eighth grade geography, brother.
It's like,
So,
okay,
just one of those. He just had to throw that out. Like,
but no, there's a lot of inherent skills in this movie that I laugh out throughout the movie. Like, how do you know how to do this?
yeah,
And yeah, but and we figure out that Danny, and because of the coordinates, Danny brings up that his brother works at a fire station. That's where their coordinates match.
yeah. So Danny calls his fireman brother. He's like, "Hey, you guys have to get out of there. There might be a bomb." Um, so he's rushing over to the fire department. Everyone, all firemen are coming out, and yeah, it turns out round 4 is a big fire that was set up downtown. We meet, I believe his name is Aiken, kind of our main FBI guy. He's a huge jerk, just an absolute dick. We kind of find out more. We find out why later on, but I did not like this dude throughout any of the movie. And he has a little exchange. Danny has a little exchange with him, and John's basically, or rather Danny, they're interchangeable. Danny says, basically stay out of my way, because I need to get my partner. I need to go find Molly. And yeah, so this is eventually John Cena, aka Danny, ends up putting on some fire gear, which is foreshadowing for the role he would play 10 years later in Playing with Fire as a fireman. That's canonically why it happened. And yeah, then him and his brother are kind of going through this burning building, trying to figure out what the heck is going on, and they end up finding a set of explosives, which kind of kicks off round 5.
And I just want to say, like, I wish maybe it would be too weird or comical, but like I think about movies like Crank, and like I wish the rounds were a little more delineated. You're taking really good notes. It sounds like about what rounds are when. I was not, and every time when they bring up, oh, it's round X, I was like, wait, wasn't it just round?
Yeah, no, this movie moves, and I don't mind that, but this movie moves at like a breakneck pace, where yeah, the rounds go into each other. It's like round 1 was you walking to the door, and round 2 is you going through it. It might as well be that. It's very breakneck. I always said in my notes, it's like if Saw happened on the go and was going at like a million miles a minute, that's basically this film. But that's the fire scene transitions right into the explosives, and it's another very kind of trap/puzzle thing where he gets a call from Miles. He's like, one of these is a bomb, one of these has a clue to the next game. And then he also said, don't forget to wear the hat and use your sirens. And then Danny basically says, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, Danny is throughout the movie leaving little clues, and like one thing I love about this movie, it's like a very schlocky, fun, silly action movie like this, but he's leaving verbal clues, and like it means that Danny has to go all Jeff Goldblum in Independence Day, undoing the sentences to find out, whoa, what was the actual clue in that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of the real game of 12 rounds. It's verbiage. But
yeah.
So they're climbing through they're scaling this building, and Danny's in his firefighter gear, and we cut back to the police station where Hank tells all the other cops Molly's been kidnapped. This could be your girlfriend. This could be your wife, or any of us. And it's like, he could have. There wasn't just men in there, they're very normative. It was very. I'm not expecting much from 2009, but like,
yeah, I wasn't surprised for when this film released, but yeah, it was very typical in that way.
But they find 2 security boxes, and thus round 5 has begun.
Yes. So yeah, as Henry mentioned, like, they've got to get out of that building. I forgot how there was a timer obviously on these boxes, and Danny's brother's like, this is gonna go off. We don't even have that much time to get out of the building. Danny goes, that's if we take the stairs. So he sets up this whole method of of rappelling down, because he's John Cena. And then he's driving around in the fire truck. He crashes a lot of stuff. He says, I'm sorry at one point to somebody, which is really funny.
This is back to John Cena foreshadowing Playing with Fire, because him rappelling down stuff is exactly what he will do then.
And I'm sure he'll be doing a lot of that in Fast 9, the driving, the jumping, the rappelling. So he gets to the water, the bombs tick down, he throws the bomb in the water.
Well, no. Miles shuts both of the timers to 0.
Yes.
Even though Danny's gotten there on time, he's playing by the rules. Danny's being a good games player person.
He knows how to play the game.
But it's all about that. But like the thing is, Miles doesn't care about playing by the rules. Miles flips the timers, and then Danny looks at the two boxes, and he listens, and he hears that one of them has a little bell that goes off, which brings up a recurring motif where Miles says, "Oh, you've been saved by the bell." And every time it happens, I just chuckle a little bit. But it's sorry about the fire.
No, it's
fitting with the trailer.
It's perfect for what we're talking about.
Yeah,
actually.
no, it's and because the thing is, there are fire trucks everywhere. You gotta wear the hat and use the horn. But
all day.
he keeps one security lockbox and he throws the other one in the wharf.
Yes. So he succeeds. He throws away the bomb just in time. We see it blow up in the water. Then he needs to open the other box. He asked the FBI for a saw, which is funny because this movie reminds me of Saw. FBI continuing to be jerks to Danny. They realize the next game is happening at Hotel Monteleone, which someone in my family probably owns. And he gets there.
But when he gets to every time they drive to someplace, Danny has the most gratuitous property destruction ever, and it's all perfectly built for the. But it's all no. He probably cares a little bit, but it seems like it's all built for the trailer. When Danny drives a fire truck through like 9 motorcycles, or drives a fire truck through a tiki bar, like it's all very much. It serves no purpose for the actual movie like narrative, but it's a fun explosion or destruction thing. I'm like, okay, you have a trailer you need to make, and well, hey, look, you can see it down there. But like,
it's very GTA. He's driving through everything. But so then we get to Hotel Monteleone. We realize that Molly is there with Miles. Miles is kind of forcing her to talk on camera. She's like, if you're viewing this, round 6 has already started. I'm sure you've already met your new friend Willie, because at that point he met the security guard there. And
Miles had Willie show him something in the hotel. That we don't really know that much about, but and then Miles left Polaroids of Molly for Danny to find, and she was bound and gagged in the Polaroids. I'm like, yeah, okay, this has got a little kinky. I'm a little bit surprised. I expected Miles to have more sicko dialogue about that.
Yeah, but this sets up basically a trap where
because Willie and Danny are in the elevator. It's like a freight elevator basically.
They're in a giant freight elevator. They have 60 seconds before it falls, and it's basically set up so that only one of them can really get out and survive. And Willie, being a larger man, it's basically designed for him to fail. But Danny, being the heroic guy he is, he really tries to save him. He jumps up to the top of the elevator. He's able to pull Willie, kind of to the upper portion, but he eventually can't hold on in the way he needs to actually get off of the elevator itself and to the side of the building. That was a real bummer of the scene. It also gave me some flashbacks, because literally last night I got stuck in my elevator. It was not that dramatic. Luckily, nothing crazy happened. I didn't have to perform an action scene to get out. But
Miles was a real jerk about it all too, because he had Molly read a script of the instructions for the round, and Molly has to refer to Willie's unfortunate girth that would be a problem to get him out of the elevator. And at one point, like, Willie's jumping up and Danny's trying to pull him out of the elevator, and like Willie gets 1 foot on the railing and that snaps off. It's like, man, Willie can't catch a break. This movie's not giving Willie.
R.I.P. Willie.
Yeah.
He was just trying to do his job. He's got wife and kids. But anyway, so that was, I guess, round 6, and we see eventually, shortly after that, we see Miles on a bus eating ice cream, just living his best life. Danny and Miles are on the phone again. He's asking if the FBI is trying to trace their call. That's Miles asking, and he's basically exerting how smart and powerful he is, that he knows that they're not going to catch him. He's really just starting to mess with them. He says the clue to the next round is in the lobby of the hotel, a picture of a lonely man. He also says, if you trace this call again, I'll start cutting Molly's toes, which is very disturbing.
Yeah, when he said that, I could just imagine all the sickos in the room, like, hoping there would be close-ups on toes. But like, that does not happen. And Miles proves that he's even more evil than we thought, because he throws the ice cream cone and his SIM card out the window of the trolley that he's on. So he's just a litter bug too. Like, this man is a truly scummy person.
Absolutely. That's probably the worst thing he does throughout the film. But things really start heating up from here because John eventually finds the bus that Molly and Miles are on. And this is a pretty funny scene because this is like one of the most tense moments
Well,
where
he finds it because Miles told him you have a 50-50 chance of finding us. The bus number is 50-50. And
Danny's really good at solving puzzles.
Danny retains that memory, and you hear him like hearing the audio of Miles talking in his ear. And but we also meet Aiken's partner. We learn more about Detective Aiken has a partner named Ray, and Aiken tells him, "Don't be a hero, Ray. It's not in your pay grade." Because Aiken doesn't seem to care about Molly. Ray clearly is trying to save her, but like Aiken just has a vendetta against Miles, so he doesn't care who dies.
Exactly. Yeah, he strictly wants to take Miles out. Danny wants to save Molly. Santiago is kind of the nicer cop. He's trying to do both. But yeah, so we get to the bus scene, and he gets on the bus, and standing right there is Molly. And she tells him to stop, and she reveals that she has a bomb on. This scene was funny to me because it's one of the most dramatic points of the story. But like, I love how no one on the bus is really raising an eyebrow at what's happening. Like, he gets on the bus, unzips her sweater, looks at the bomb. I'm sure other people could have seen it. Gives her a hug, and then there's freaking Miles in the back being the biggest dick, just like, "You lovebirds want to take a seat," and then they start talking, and yeah, like no one pays any mind.
And when he said, "You lovebirds care for a sit," and the second he said that, his Irish accent which is like very much, he's not talking like himself in Aidan Gillen isn't giving the vocals that he would have for any of his other projects, but he has that brogue and I just kept thinking, I kind of wish it was Finn Balor instead of Aidan Gillen in this role.
Like, I wish it was Sheamus, because that's who I was thinking of. I feel like this movie had to have set off a feud between Cena and Sheamus, because they're basically the same accent. Yeah. But yeah, it's for someone. Aidan Gillen's such a good actor, but like this accent was so weird because it was Irish.
Real accent. I think it's his real accent. He's a secret. He's one of those like guys who plays like non.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna look it up, but I think he's one of those like secret Englishmen or secret Irishmen where they're very good at training their voice to sound non-regional.
Yeah, I thought it was terrible.
Irish actor. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's that. But yeah, so then they're kind of exchanging words on the bus. Miles is explaining how the bomb works, and he's like, "If I take my hand off this for a certain amount of seconds, Molly will die, and then if if something else happens, if I fully drop it, the whole bus goes." So he's really trying to scare Danny, let him know how serious it is, and yeah.
What can I say, Danny? I just like playing the game, and it wasn't bad enough when the guy in the Marine had a sledgehammer that he dragged slowly on the floor. It's just like the WWE studios. I assume that they're putting stuff like these in the movies because they want to have moments where people in the audience go, "He said the thing." Like I'm assuming that, but it's very funny when it happens.
Yeah, and then so they're going back and forth. At one point, Danny just straight up yells "fuck you" to Miles, which again, no one reacts to any of this. Everyone's just on the bus doing their own thing. Molly's trying to get a little tough. She's like, "He's gonna win and he's gonna kill you." So that scene continues for a bit, and then it all goes south because the FBI's got snipers everywhere, and they decide, despite the bomb and everything, they don't really know what's going on. They decided to start shooting at Miles. So Danny actually saves Miles at this point to prevent the bomb from going off.
But before then, Aiken fully reveals that he gives no F's about, because Santiago says, "You know you're gonna kill that girl," and Aiken goes, "I'm gonna kill Miles."
Yeah, he doesn't care. He does not care at all.
And then at the same time, it's Molly laughs at Miles's plan, and Miles goes, "Is there something funny?" And Molly goes, "He's gonna win, and then he's gonna kill you." Like this movie fully owns it.
Yeah, they're leaning into that type of dialogue. So anyway, yeah, the FBI starts shooting. Danny saves Miles in order to keep the bomb from going off. And then there's commotion on the bus. Everyone's running off. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, does Danny get handcuffed to the bus? Is that what happened?
Handcuffed inside the bus, and that's why. And, when he gets out of the bus, because I guess somebody helped him loose. I don't remember how, Like it's one of those things where like it probably had something happen, but like I wasn't. I was trying to take notes while watching, and you only can get so much even when watching this movie for the second time. But the second Danny gets out of the bus, he walks up and just cold clocks Aiken right in the face, right in the chin, basically.
Oh yeah, he
And he
gets
goes,
a good.
"You shoot Miles, everybody dies." And he's like, "You didn't know that Molly would die if you shot Miles." And then Ray looks at Aiken. He goes, "You got something right here," because he's pointing to the bruise on Aiken's lip from the getting punched moment. It's funny. Cops fighting cops, like.
Yeah, and then we get we get kind of Hank and Danny reconvene eventually, and Hank's got a plan. He wants to go after Miles's main henchman, and they think they've got some leverage and they've got the jump. So that's kind of Hank's kind of side mission going on. And then the next round it gets pretty elaborate, but basically there's like a cable car that Danny has to stop from kind of going out of control and completely crashing and killing everybody.
And
And so
Ray's
kind
on
of the
the
chase
phone.
begins. Yeah.
He's on the phone trying to get them to stop the car.
Yep.
But she put me on hold. Like
Yeah.
nobody believes them in their chase. It's really sort of
Yeah,
amusing.
so yeah, now the dynamic changes because yeah, now we have Danny and Ray kind of on the run to, or on the chase together, trying to stop this cable car from spiraling out of control. And you get to know Ray as kind of the more sympathetic FBI person. And they can't get to the power people. They don't know what the hell's going on. They eventually kind of do this weird maneuver where they just get in front of it and they get slammed by it and they try to slow it down. A lot of drama, and then eventually, they actually both they're driving the car. They both jump out of a moving car as it kind of takes out the generator.
But in the
And
meantime, Danny actually climbs to the top of their car
yep,
and then climbs onto the trolley, climbs to the roof, tries to cut the power and can't. And I'm just
yeah,
thinking, how does he know that the power of the trolley? Like, there's a lot of like, oh, okay,
Danny has a lot of knowledge about. Yeah, he's really good at geography.
he deserves that
Uh,
promotion. Like, he really
yeah,
earned it. And also, this
yeah,
was the second time, I believe, this is the car that he knocks the windshield out of. And this
yeah.
created a ticker in my head of windshields destroyed. So this is we're at 2 now for Cinephiles.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. And then I think him and Ray have a funny little exchange. He's like, it's the first time you jumped out of a moving car. He's like, first time by choice, basically. And then there's like, I think they finally save the cable car. One guy throws out a funny one-liner. He's like, guess I gotta start taking the bus.
Yep.
And then we get to kind of the showdown between Hank and the henchman, which gets kind of interesting.
So we sort of figure out that the henchman is talking with Miles. I refer to him as the Bluetooth douchebag because he has
Yes,
a little earpiece.
I believe
Um,
that's what he's credited as.
yeah, it's a technical term for it. But like when they get off the bus, the trolley, Detective Ray gets a call. And he goes, "Oh, thank you." And he turns to Hank. He turns to Danny and goes, "They're gonna shut off the power." Because they finally got through to them. But
Yep, that was pretty funny.
so Hank comes across the Bluetooth douchebag, and it seems like it's a well-laid trap to kill Hank.
Hmm.
And because the BTDB says you won't think a man like Miles would have planned for this, and then this
And
little
then,
landmine device on the floor opens, and what
yep,
does Hank say?
Hank says basically, whatever the plan was, you were part of it, bitch.
And that is one of the many times in this movie that the dialogue is punctuated by "bitch." Like
Oh
it
yeah,
is, it is the preferred word of this movie.
it is not. Yeah, it is not the last time you'll hear it. So that house basically blows up. We can't. Obviously, we know BTDB is dead, as we'll call him.
Yep.
Hank's fate is uncertain, but the henchman's out of the way, and then I believe this was we kind of learn. Aiken finally reveals his why he hates Miles so bad, and you could probably explain this better than I can, Henry. But there was kind of an incident 3 years prior where they couldn't stop him, and it gets kind of personal for Aiken. So
Yeah, Miles blows up a 747 or something. I think.
yes,
Like
yep,
he
yep,
goes, and then the only thing that survived the 747 was a die-cast car, And throughout
Yep.
the movie, Aiken has this toy car in his hands where the hood flips open, and because they talked earlier in the movie about how like, well, we had trained it so because Miles only got out of prison because of a hostage thing or something where the FBI didn't want to work with him, but they were like, okay, we're just gonna let these guys out of jail, and then we're gonna flip the switch on all the cars so they're not gonna actually get away.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert: Miles got away. But then so he gets out, and then so that's why he has a toy car, and he's really still bitter about it. And Aiken sort of lets his guard down with Danny and sort of accepts it. And I'm still not sure why. I'm like thinking because I guess Aiken spent the entire like 3 last scenes when Aiken had made the mistake of not almost killing Molly. Aiken took that time to mentally process the mistake he almost made,
Yeah.
and so then we now, because the 3 policemen are finally getting along and working together, we actually can have all these sparks of like mental acuity, and they can actually finally maybe stop Miles because somebody from the police station calls up Danny, and it turns out they pulled the switch on Willie early. Like Willie was always gonna die. What does that mean? There's like
Yeah.
this series of like, wait, he did that because of that, and it's very
Right.
much like Charlie Kelly on It's Always Sunny pointing at the corkboard with all the string on it.
Yep. And yeah, so then that kind of brings us to the final round, more or less. Danny gets another call. At this point, Miles is singing. He's like singing "Oh Daddy Boy." That's how he greets him, and he basically says, "In 17 minutes, it'll be 1 year since my girl's death. Only your thumbprint can stop the timer on the bomb." He literally makes Danny say. He asks him, "Are you sorry for what happened?" Danny says, "I'm sorry." He's just playing with his emotions at this point. He says game over. He's like, this is game over at one point, where again, like the Saw parallels are off the charts. And the clue he gives is like you basically you have to go see Erica. You have to go to her grave. And that's
Pay
where
Erica a visit because
pay Erica a visit.
Miles asks Danny, "Do you feel bad about what you did to Erica?"
Mm-hmm.
Remember, Danny didn't do anything to Erica. Erica
Yeah.
got out of the car. Erica screwed Erica. Like that's
Yeah.
but then they think, oh, he means we need to go to the cemetery. But then during the middle of, I think it's somewhere around this point, we like that's when we get the call about Miles having flipped the switch for Willie early, and
Mm-hmm.
Danny starts realizing, wait, Willie was always going to die. Why was Willie always going to die? It wasn't about the game. It turned out Miles was used. Wait, we need to look at what Willie's. Why would he want to kill Willie? Willie
Mm-hmm.
turns out has a night job working in a security company, and that
Mm-hmm.
security company is connected to the local. Wait, no.
Local
What were the
mints.
other
Yeah.
buildings that were in the radius of the Hotel Monteleone that we had to close? That we had to clear out because of the threat to the Hotel Monteleone? Wait, that's a goddamn mint. Is something that I think Ray or
Word for word, yeah.
yeah,
What they say.
I'm thorough with the notes. I'm a journalist.
Of course. And yeah, so now we have Miles posing as Willie, and he's in the mint. He's about to take, steal about $100 million, because that's what bad guys do. And then it also, then as he's making his escape, it turns out Molly knows how to fly a helicopter.
Yep.
So he forces her to do that. And that's we're getting pretty close to our final battle here. At one point,
But
at one
so they learn that it's not. It's like all this like weird like, oh, we're not supposed to go to the. We have to go to the hospital because
yeah, yep.
because they keep realizing, oh no, Miles is doing this because of this. Why would he need Molly all alive? Because he needs to escape with the money somehow. And I don't know how they figure out the helicopter, but they figure out they need to go to the roof of the hospital where, of course, because Molly and Miles fills a body bag with all the soaking thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Because let's go back to the start of the movie when I said it doesn't seem like Miles really cared that much about Erica. This was never about justice for Erica. This was always about the money. And I think this proves that he's even more soulless than he claimed. Because it was always just Erica was a misdirect this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was just everything that he had, all the 12 rounds, or at least the 11 rounds that he had Danny do, he was also doing something to get to this point of being able to steal the money and get away, because it's never been about what we thought, and that's the great like he's a smart mastermind moment where
Yeah,
it's
so
like
he's not this grieving, he's not this grieving former lover. He's just a big schemer and a dirtbag. It turns out, major twist. I actually felt horrible for him the whole time. But yeah, so yeah, now it's time for the big kind of helicopter confrontation. They eventually catch up to Miles and Molly. Aiken gets shot, so we're worried about him. And then this sets off a pretty awesome sequence of events where, obviously the bomb is still in play. Miles is forcing Molly to fly the helicopter. Molly at one point grabs a fire extinguisher, hits Miles right in the nether region with it. So that sets off kind of them fighting back. And then right after this, Danny, in a classic John Cena action moment, jumps onto the helicopter. I wish there was more slow-mo in it. That's what I wrote in my notes. But he's, of course, being John Cena, Danny just jumps into the helicopter. So they're going back and forth. They're stabbing each other. Miles shocks him with something at one point.
like the paddles for when you're trying to give somebody like to get their heart back, I think is what it was.
Yes.
I have it in my notes. Miles shocks Danny's titties with the paddles. Like that's
precisely what happens.
That is a technical term for it.
And I believe Miles says this time you're not going to get saved by the bell, which is his favorite thing in the world to say.
Calling that back. And at this point, I kept getting confused about how Danny gets the leg up on Miles. And in fact, it's just because Molly distracts Miles by telling Danny to hold on, I'm going to try to do something. And that allows Danny to get the upper hand and eventually start punching and beating Miles up and yelling. And he just yells at him, "You lose!"
So corny.
Molly tells Danny to strap in, but after she says that, Miles, remember the little timer trigger where if his finger lets go of it, the explosives will go off soon? Well, it's back. Chekhov's explosive vest, I guess.
Chekhov's vest, yeah.
Yep. And Miles sets off the timer, and the explosives are in the chopper. And what does Danny say to Molly?
Oh, well, he says, "Do you trust me?"
Molly says, "Yes."
And lo and behold, they just happen to be above the swimming pool. So Danny grabs Molly and straight up jumps out of the helicopter.
But not before Molly kicks Miles and uses the refrain of the movie. She says, "You land it, bitch."
Yes. How can I forget the single greatest line in the movie?
I don't have 8 pages of notes for a bad reason. This is a movie worth a. I think I took more notes about this movie than many of the books I read in high school. Like I'm pretty sure. But so
it's a dense film.
They jump out of the helicopter and.
They jump out of the helicopter. Obviously, it explodes. They safely land in the swimming pool. You see Aiken. He's smiling. He's alive. He's like, "Great, they survived."
He's got then we get this in his hand. He's got.
Yeah, and there's this amazing comedic kind of finale where they're walking on this hotel rooftop, coming out of the pool. Everyone's looking at them like they're insane because they just jumped out of a helicopter into a swimming pool. Danny gives this deadpan like, "Oh, helicopter exploded. What are you gonna do?" Then Molly says something to the effect of like, "Oh, can't wait to get back to the house." And what does Danny say?
About the house.
Yeah, and I believe that's
credits. That's
another film where, and it kind of respects your time. There's no like happily ever after scene. It's like, okay, we killed the bad guy, we're out, and that was 12 rounds for you.
They left it open if they wanted to do more with these characters. They left that for the sequel, which they did not make. As you said earlier, Randy Orton in 12 Rounds 2, and John Moxley in 12 Rounds 3. I was not doing an impression of the terrible ring announcer. That was just my way of saying it. And yeah, no, we are in the books for Cinefiles episode 2, aka 12 Round. I keep doing that today. But so let's just go to the ratings board here. We had given The Marine a 2.5 out of 5. And when we say 5, we are not referring to any other metric than the 5 Knuckles Shuffle. 2.5 Knuckles out of 5. And yes, Hunter, you are sticking with the series for us to cover Ferdinand and Blockers. And just so you know, I don't know if Ferdinand's kind of an action movie. It has the car chases.
There's action in it, yeah. And
Um,
Blockers is just just a brilliant modern comedy.
and
I
if
can't wait to
you want to,
rewatch that.
yeah, if you want to watch those movies, Ferdinand's on Disney Plus. Blockers is on. Well, you're gonna probably want to rent that because Blockers is on Fubo, and you're not gonna spend $65 per month just to watch. You don't need to do that. That's not a good way to spend your time. But it's one of many movies that are coming up. But for now, Mike, what score would you? How many knuckles would you give 12 rounds? How many knuckles would you give Danny Fisher?
I'm sitting at a solid 3 for 12 rounds. I think again, I think it's a solid action thriller. It moved at a very brisk pace, almost too brisk, but yeah, you're literally going from one game to another. There aren't any real lulls. Good performance from John Cena. He's doing his best as a detective looking to do good, be a good guy, and there's some fun action scenes. There's some fun set pieces. The dialogue, the writing is just fine. There's definitely some corny and cringy one-liners, but it's fascinating. I said this when we did the original version of this podcast. I'll say it again. I think 12 rounds, a big leap in quality over the Marine from John Cena's first two big movies. I still had more fun watching the Marine because it was just so ridiculous and so campy and so silly. But this is, I think, undeniably a better movie.
Yeah, Muggin, Blockers is hilarious, and if you want, we recommend that you watch. So we need to go back to the subtitle, the log line of our show. You can stream him, but should you? And when it comes to 12 rounds, I would say you should stream him if you know what you're getting into. If you're looking for a corny, little overly convoluted action movie, like there's a lot of like, oh, that they know how to do that, they know how to do that kind of stuff in this, as we've gone over. So you might want to stream 12 rounds, but yes, everybody should stream Blockers. It's fantastic. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get
Blockers
to it.
is in June, currently on our schedule. Next Saturday, we are going to be talking about the movie Legendary, and then on the Saturday, we're going to skip Sunday next weekend and jump because of the holiday weekend. We're not. Mike's busy because it's his birthday next Sunday. So
That is a holiday. When we say holiday, we don't mean Memorial Day.
no, yeah, it's also Double or Nothing Day, so we're gonna be plenty busy. But yeah, then the Saturday after that, June 5th, we're gonna go to the reunion. And Legendary and Reunion, I sort of regard as the final movies of a certain chapter of John
Mm-hmm.
Cena's film career. Like the Marine and 12 Rounds, I guess, are sort of the straightforward action movies, and Legendary and Reunion are the two goofy, weird movies. Like
Yes.
it's, I mean, and then we have the animated movies, of course, but like we're gonna get to the next section of the cinematic oeuvre. Thank you all for joining us today. Of course, tell your friends. Cinephiles is also on YouTube. Cinephiles is also on your favorite podcast platform, um, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We're gonna be putting those episodes up in time,
Mm-hmm.
giving people some time to, if they want to track these movies down, they can. But I believe that was it for Cinephiles today. Mike, do you have any parting words for the audience?
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for watching. We had a really nice crowd today, which is great. Thank you guys for chiming in and talking. And again, like Henry said, if you missed the episodes live, no fret not. We'll be on YouTube and all your favorite podcast services early this week. So definitely keep an eye out for that. Be sure to follow us everywhere. And yeah, feel free to take a. I think our schedule is on our Twitter. So if you want to watch along with us, you can absolutely do that. And yeah, just continue to have an awesome week and give those five knuckle shuffles wherever you can, and a Cena salute to everybody watching.
We will talk to you later. The times of the next episodes we're looking at seeing what time is best for the audience. We're not too metrics driven on this show, but we are definitely wanting to make sure that that people are paying attention. So we might move to 3 p.m. next week. We'll
Yeah,
figure it out though. So
we're fluid.
stay tuned to
Yeah.
our social media. We'll announce things as we will. And on that note, have a wonderful day, and we will see you later. Bye.